Who likes scary stories? Well, I've got two short stories for you and a very scary poem. Here we go. This is a story called The Ghost at Ivy Cottage. It was nearly dusk, and Mrs. Smith was walking past the village playing fields when three girls came running out. "Mrs. Smith! Mrs. Smith!" Nicky, Bryony and Laura were breathless. Ivy Cottage is haunted. Ivy Cottage stood on its own on the other side of the field behind a thick bramble hedge. Mrs. Smith looked at the three girls in surprise. "Haunted? Whatever makes you think that?" "We saw a light in there," cried Nicky, "through the hedge. But nobody lives there, do they?" "Well, it's for sale, and the people who own it have moved out," said Mrs. Smith. "Perhaps there's an estate agent showing somebody around." "No, no," insisted Bryony. "It wasn't an ordinary light. It was green, and it flickered." "And we heard something scream," Laura added. "Now calm down," Mrs. Smith soothed. "You're getting overexcited. You're scaring yourselves and all. There's no such thing as ghosts." "Sarah says there is," said Bryony. "She told us Ivy Cottage is haunted." "Sarah? Who's Sarah?" "Our friend. She's new." The girls pointed to the playground gate, where there was another girl standing waiting. Mrs. Smith had never seen her before. "Well, I think we'd better have a word with Sarah." Mrs. Smith went over to the strange girl and told her that she shouldn't go round scaring her new friends with silly ghost stories. "But it isn't silly," said Sarah. "There is a ghost." "Right," said Mrs. Smith. "Come with me and I'll show you you're wrong. There's nothing to be frightened of." They all crossed the field. Ivy Cottage was just visible through the dense bramble hedge. There was a faint glow in one window, but it wasn't flickering. "There," said Mrs. Smith. "It's just an electric light. The owners must be back." Then suddenly the light turned a cold green colour and it winked out. At the same moment, a weird cry echoed out of the dark. Nicky, Bryony and Laura screamed and ran away. Only Sarah didn't run. She just stood staring at Mrs. Smith. "See?" she said. Mrs. Smith was shaken but collected herself. "Now stop it," she said. "The light bulb went out, that's all. And the noise must have been a bird, maybe an owl, probably. There isn't a ghost." Sarah said, "Oh, yes, there is." She smiled at Mrs. Smith. Then very slowly she faded away and there was no one there. Ooh. This poem is called Things by Robert Sparrow. Some people lie awake at night, maybe listening to the dark. Maybe their imagination starts to run away with them and they think about the things that they can hear. Well, this poem is about listening to those strange noises at night. Here it goes. There's a gurgly lurking somewhere, a wet and horrid thing. I think it hides behind the chair and keeps on swallowing. I can hear it so loud and clear, I'm sure it's coming much too near. There's a creaky on the landing. Something is creeping there, or waiting quietly standing with big eyes and black hair. Or maybe he's got crinkly skin. Don't move, and it won't come in. There's a rattly in the roof space that crawls about the floor, all cobwebs with a sooty face looking for our trap door, coming and spilling crumbly sand to grab me with his dry old hand. There's a smudgy near the doorway. Just now he's very small, a swirly thing all misty grey that spreads across the wall. It gets dark, He grows until his arms stretch to the window sill. Gurglies, much too near my bed, creakies, climbing from the hall, old rattlies crawling overhead, and grey smudges on the wall. Imagination, my mum said, sick fancies from your fevered head. I hear quick steps thud on the stairs, coming nearer, pitter-pat. It jumps onto my bed, and there's our ginger pussycat, a purring furry, come to stay, to keep all those nasties far away. So, nothing to be scared of at all. My last story is about somebody, also at night time, who gets her comeuppance. It's called Teeth. When one of her milk teeth fell out, Mum said, "Put it under your pillow tonight, and while you're asleep, the tooth fairy will come and give you 20 pence. In the morning the tooth was gone, and there, sure enough, was 20 pence, just like Mum had promised. Not bad. The next tooth that fell out was bigger, and she thought it ought to be worth more. You couldn't do much with 20 pence. 50 pence was more like it, even a pound maybe. But there was only 20 pence under her pillow in the morning. It wasn't fair. The tooth fairy was mean. When the third tooth came out, she wrote a note. "Dear Tooth Fairy," it said, 20 pence isn't enough. I want a pound, or even 2. In the morning she looked eagerly under her pillow. The note had gone, and there was 20 pence. She was very cross, so she decided on a plan. Out came another tooth, and under her pillow it went, but this time she only pretended to go to sleep. At midnight, a teeny creature appeared. It had delicate wings, and it was carrying a teeny bag. It felt around under the pillow with a teeny hand, and "Gotcha!" she cried. The tooth fairy squealed and wriggled, but she didn't let go. "Didn't you get my note?" she demanded. "I want more money for my teeth." "It's not allowed," gasped the tooth fairy. "Rules are rules. 20 pence per tooth." "I want more," she growled. "If you don't give it to me, I'll squash you." She squeezed to show what she meant. "Look," spluttered the fairy, "I'm only doing my job. I can't give you more money unless you give me more teeth. £2 at 20 pence £2 at 20 pence a tooth, that's 10 teeth." "All right," she said. "Come back tomorrow night and make sure you've got money with you, or else." That night she took Grandad's dentures from the bathroom. Loads of teeth there, she thought. She'd get at least £2. She put the dentures under her pillow and went to sleep, feeling very pleased with herself. In the morning she stuck her hand under the pillow. "Ow! Oh, help, Mum!" The dentures had snapped shut on her fingers, and they wouldn't come off. Grandad found a £2 coin under his pillow. He never worked out where it came from. She had to go to hospital to have the dentures removed. Her fingers hurt for weeks, and under her pillow there was a note in teeny writing. "That'll teach you." And it did.